Back with politicsincolor.com, and I'm Jonathan Clark reporting live from the Republican National Convention here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm joined now by Michele Morrow. She's a Republican nominee for the North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction's position.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about what the superintendent of public instruction does. What falls under that individual's?
Sure. Well, North Carolina is only one of 12 states that actually elect a superintendent of public instruction. So it's a statewide race, and in North Carolina, it's one of 10 of the Council of State seats, and so we make up the executive branch of North Carolina. So it's really it's a position where it's a go-between between the legislature, who sets the laws, and between the individual 115 school districts. So we are ensuring that the laws are upheld and that all of the school districts have the resources that they need.
So you fall under the executive branch?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're answerable to the governor then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to start you off in a place where you probably didn't expect me to start.
Okay.
And then we'll go backwards in the other direction.
Sounds good.
Tell me what it is that's right about education right now. What's working with education? Because I know you probably can tell me a lot of things that aren't working. I want to know what's working well.
I think what's working well, there are a lot of CTE programs. There's a lot of opportunity in different districts in North Carolina where we've been partnering with businesses in order to give students a chance to maybe have internships during their junior and senior year. And so that's not available all throughout the state, but it is available in certain areas. And where it is available, it really is benefiting not only our students themselves, but the community as well. So I'd like to expand that throughout the entire state.
All right, so that's working. What's
yes.
not?
What's not working is I think we are misprioritizing our money in our classroom time. Almost 50% of all of our tax money in North Carolina goes to K through 12 education, and yet last year only 25% of our students in 8th grade were found competent in math, reading, or in science.
I used to do a little work in school, and statistics in school they tend to rub me the wrong way sometimes, because I think there's hardly ever a continuum where you can really gauge what's working and what's not.
Right.
Perhaps largely driven by book companies that stand to
or by
benefit.
Political organizations that
Or
tell you if you don't do X,
organizations.
Y, or Z, or if you don't meet this metric, then you're not going to get your cash. And then there's we all know you can make statistics say whatever you want them to say.
One of the things that always used to concern me was how quickly things would turn over. So you'd try one program for a moment in reading for a while.
Yes.
It would go for perhaps 2 years if you're lucky.
Right.
Maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
The books would age out in 3 years, imagine that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're back into a new system. And so I wondered if you have a student who starts off in kindergarten and they go straight through to 12th grade, how do you measure which one of those things worked if the thing that you started with in first grade is entirely different from the thing you wind up with, or by the time you get to 12th grade, they're using entirely different metrics, entirely different tools, entirely different methodology and thinking than they were when this kid started out in school.
Well, I think what you're measuring in elementary as opposed to high school is very different. And what I'd like to do is I want to make sure that no one leaves 5th grade until they have mastered reading, writing, and math, because I think those are the foundations on which all higher levels of learning are going to be reached. And there are many statistics that state that by 3rd grade, if someone has not mastered reading, then the chances of their ability to be able to go on to college or to be able to get higher level paying jobs is actually quite diminished. And so that is where one of the other things when you ask about what's good is we have gone back to phonics, which we had gotten away from phonics in North Carolina.
I thought phonics made
sense.
But when my daughter came along, she was using an entirely different method of learning to read.
Yes.
I think they were using sight words.
Yep. And we're now seeing, as you say, you have to look back and say, was that successful? And that's one of the things I want to do as superintendent as well. Not only do we need to go through and look at how we're spending our money, we need an an audit with money. We also need an audit with programs, because everyone starts a program with good intentions, right? You want to improve something, but there has to be a measuring tool. And in my opinion, if you cannot show statistically that some program that you have initiated has ended up improving our kids academically or in career preparedness or character development, if you can't statistically prove that in the last 5 years, then we need to do away with that and go back to what we know was working, because I don't think we need to recreate the wheel in education. I think we need to return to what was working when you and I went through school and we managed to be able to become productive members of society.
Oh, you went to school much later than I did.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah. So, one of the things that's important to many people of color, I would say,
Yes.
is that the students are taught by a representative number of people who teachers who look like them. A little bit of concern that they may have is that the Republican Party has turned a little bit of a stiff eye towards diversity, equity, and inclusion, so-called DEI.
Yes.
And it's not viewed upon favorably within the party. Where do we start to consider DEI and having representative staffing for students throughout your district?
Well, I think the real key is drawing people into teaching of minority status. But here's the reality. If we're not teaching everyone, whatever zip code they live in, how to read and write and do math, then you are limiting them from being able to go into these different positions. So in my opinion, we need diversity only in opportunity, a diversity of ideas, inclusion in terms of we're including the parents and the community into our education, and we need opportunities to be equitable. I don't know, when I was growing up, I mean, did you only learn well from people that looked like you, or do you have teachers that, it was more about we're in this as a community. I think we need to bring more into the team atmosphere, and I would like to see where the principal is kind of the head coach. I love football, head coach, and then you've got your assistant coaches are the teachers, and then you've got your players being the students, and you've got your booster club being the parents. I think if we are all working together and we all are a part of this one community as a school, and our goal is that every student gets the education they need so that they can pursue a career that's going to be not only financially successful for them, but also personally rewarding, is what needs to be the issue.
I loved English.
Yeah.
And I loved English because my 8th grade teacher was Miss Reddy, who became Mrs. Griffith.
Uh-huh.
She challenged me to admit that I really didn't read Shakespeare and that I couldn't have written the report in a day. So I loved her. She was white. Mm-hmm. And I learned as much from her as I could from any other teacher,
Yes.
black or white.
Yes.
I also know that for a moment when I went through the school system, as a teacher and was thinking about doing that for a while, I came across many teachers who thought that the students who I encountered were better off for seeing a black man as that teacher. So one could argue that there is value, wouldn't you say, in having people of diverse
Absolutely.
backgrounds there, and couldn't that be prioritized, or shouldn't that be prioritized?
Well, I really think we need to return to merit. I think when you have a teacher, teachers go into teaching because they're passionate, because
Sure.
because they're compassionate, and they want to see every child reach their full potential. And I think if we would encourage that we are rewarding our teachers, that we are drawing the best out. If you have a passion for math, your teacher obviously had a passion for Shakespeare and for literature and for writing, and you caught that. Why? Not because she looked like you, but because she loved her students and she loved her subject. And I think that's what we need to get back to. We need to focus on the fact that I am a Christian. I believe that every person is made in the image of God, and I believe that every person has something to be developed to give back into the community, and that to me is what our school should be about. We should be focusing on, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? Here are all of these different opportunities that you could pursue, and we need to make sure that every student has that. And I think that when we define someone by the color of their skin, or we limit their future by the
Yeah.
color of their skin, that to me is the definition of racism.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up for now. I want you to come back if you can and have a little bit more of a conversation with us, because I think a couple more things that we probably could talk about, and would love to see if you could chat with us again sometime soon.
Sure, that would be
Okay.
great. Love to come.
Very good. We've been
Thank
talking
you.
with Michele Morrow, who is the Republican nominee for the North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction here at politicsandcolor.com. We'll be back momentarily right after this break.